Maybe a little overdue, but finally it did happen. Finally this week they came and brought us the keys, we unlocked the building, and our school children were just screaming, just for joy. I mean, finally. So it was kind of like a bittersweet victory here. We were very glad that the doors were opened up, but it's very painful to see that they forced us to pay the $274,000 in fines. Now that's not tickets or summonses. These were fines that the judge ruled. He said we were in contempt of court because we had church service. I'm sorry to say, but I don't think the storm has passed. I think this might be just a little calm, but we will need to find a community that we can work with and stand with, because to stand alone will be difficult. So we must stand together, and that is my burden and that's why I'm here this morning. I'll go anywhere and help anyone I can, because humanity is hurting and humanity is in big trouble right now. We need help and we need to stand together.
Warning, censorship. Warning, censorship.
Tamara Ugolini here for Rebel News. Many of our viewers are familiar with Pastor Henry Hildebrandt from the Church of God in Aylmer, Ontario. He questioned the government's response to COVID-19 very early on in the pandemic and has remained consistent and clear in his stance. Find connection within your community and stick together to prevent those with unfounded fears from treading on your God-given and constitutional rights. Well, he and his congregation have since been targets of heavy police enforcement and ticketing, many of whom have come to us through our Fight the Fines initiative, where we crowdfund for otherwise law-abiding citizens who question the constitutionality of many of the COVID restrictions, and then we put them in touch with top-notch legal defense to fight their fines at no cost to them. The Church of God goers have also been on the receiving end of local smear campaigns. At times, violent harassment at their church and their personal homes, and general hateful slurs slung their way. But that hasn't stopped them. They continue to gather and worship even after state-sanctioned locks were placed on their church, where they, again, continued to gather. 2 weekends ago, I caught up with Pastor Hildebrandt a few days after the locks were finally removed from his place of worship. Check out what he had to say. So they took the locks down from the church. Do you want to give us an update?
Yes, finally. Maybe a little overdue, but finally it did happen. Finally this week they came and brought us the keys. We unlocked the building, and our school children were just screaming, just for joy. I mean, finally. Moments after that, our children just ran into the library, faced the books, took the books out and started reading. So that was kind of what hurt us now, is earlier this month is when our children weren't able to get back into their school rooms. So the pressure was on, and we were hoping and praying that they would finally open them up. So yes, they did open it up.
Yeah. And for our viewers, tell us, how long were the locks on the church?
They locked up on May 14th, so that's 4 months, just 2 days after 4 months.
Yep. So even though the locks came off of the church, you had to pay an outrageous amount in fines. Tell us what happened there.
So it was kind of like a bittersweet victory here. We were very glad that the doors were opened up, but it's very painful to see that they forced us to pay the $274,000 in fines. Now that's not tickets or summonses. These were fines that the judge ruled. He said we were in contempt of court because we had church service, and they fined us $274,000. Well, it was $273, but $1,000 interest since they placed the order. So we had not paid those fines because we don't even know yet. Up to this point, it hasn't gone. The challenge to the Constitution hasn't taken place yet. So we didn't know what, because it might still turn out that it was wrong what they did, right? But they delivered the court papers to us and said that because we had thought that maybe they will put a lien on the building, or maybe take the building away, or who knows what, or maybe go after me personally, put me in jail or whatever. And that's all we had said, that's fine if that's what you have to do. But now they went the other way and ignored what they could have done and said, no, we're going to go after the individual members of the congregation. We're talking young couples with 2 little children. They would go off after them for the last 3 years of their income. They asked if there was life insurance policies and different things, assets, anything, just put their hands on it and grab that. And we drew the line. That's where we drew the line. We said no. So we went and took out a temporary loan. And when paid out, they just confirmed yesterday that they got the $274,000, and we'll just pay that off. And we have let our supporters know worldwide that said that they wanted to help with that. So if anyone, even listening to this, wants to see where that is, go to aylmerchurchofgod.com. And you'll see we'll update daily on where we are with those fines. People have been extremely generous.
And now, we've been gathering here. This crowd's been gathering here at Queen's Park for almost 20 months now. What's changed for you over that last year and a half plus of time? And has your message changed at all for the Canadian public and your congregation?
So it's almost to the day, 1 year ago, September 26th, we were gathering at Yonge and Dundas. And back then, and it's not because I said it, but it was something that I said. I said, today they're coming for me. It's the pastors. Tomorrow it's you. So now we see what was so important to them. They said, our frontline workers. And of course we recognize them, and of course we appreciate them. But now they're stabbing them in the back. So what is the message? Is they are coming after every last one of them. So now it's our officers, 3 of them here speaking here today, which I so much appreciate. Our doctors, our nurses. I mean, it's hard to understand that these people, that these frontline workers that gave their life, so to speak, and now they're being stabbed in the back and they don't have a choice but what to do in life. It's wrong. It's just very, very wrong. Our message hasn't changed. Our message is stand up. Stand up, people, because they can only play their game on our back if we stay kneel down. Stand up and go against it.
How can Canadians who might feel that the insane pressure of job loss and loss of income over the mandating of this injection, how do they continue to have faith when faced with such a harsh decision for their livelihood?
It is very difficult right now, and that's why our hearts break for them. That's why right now, really, the message is find a community, because you have what I don't and I have what you don't. Find a community, because for anybody, and I'm sorry to say, but I don't think the storm is past. I think this might be just a little calm, but we will need to find a community that we can work with and stand with, because to stand alone will be difficult. So we must stand together, and that is my burden and that's why I'm here this morning. I'll go anywhere and help anyone I can, because humanity is hurting and humanity is in big trouble right now. We need help and we need to stand together. And I think after this, the people will have a voice in there, and I think slowly but surely, and maybe not so slowly, because we see the tremendous change here. I think that eventually people will have a voice, and that we will see a change, because people realize it's no more the 2 weeks of flattening the curve. We're in trouble. We're in real trouble. And our freedom, whether it's yours or mine, is at stake, and we must stand up.
Thank you very much for your comments, and I'm glad to hear that the church is back opened up, and I wish your congregation all the best. As we approach the winter times, what can Canadians do to build that community if they're maybe just starting to come out and connect?
Yes.
How do they start something like that if they're just learning from scratch?
So I think it's extremely important that people realize that you can start small. Start small, like start with your neighbor, start with your neighborhood, and go from there, and just start working together. It's high time to build community, high time, and connect yourself with other communities. That is one reason also why we're here, is to just share with other people and telling them, look, work in communities, because you'll need it.
Thanks, Henry Hildebrandt, for your time. And for coming out repeatedly and for having that unwavering message this whole time. You're
very welcome. It comes from the bottom of my heart. I can do no other but to do that.
Can you imagine having to pay $270,000 in change just to access your place of worship? The attack on religion in wake of all things COVID-19 by the medical cartel and their lapdog police is an unprecedented infringement of what Canadians once thought was an enshrined and protected chartered right. the right to freedom of religion, and the right to freedom of assembly. These days, it seems to be all COVID or nothing. For Rebel News, I'm Tamara Ugolini. We may not be representing Pastor Hildebrandt specifically, but we have taken on many from his congregation. If you appreciate the civil liberties work that we're doing at fightthefines.com to oppose these unconstitutional fines, then please consider donating what you're able to. Lawyers aren't cheap, and we know many people would otherwise succumb to the fines if they had to pay their own legal fees. To set good precedents, we've hired the best of the best. Consider supporting this important work at fightthefines.com.